muscle car game since before many of us have even been born, and within their golden years they were pumping out muscle cars faster than Hillary Clinton could delete emails. They made one of the most unique and practical muscle cars today, and sadly this muscle car is slowly being forgotten. I'm Mark Roden, and this is a deep dive on the mullet of the car world, the Chevy El Camino. In the year of 1957, the year that I was born actually, don't ask, I just age incredibly well, Chevy had their eyes on a pesky little company called Ford. And that's because Ford had made something so bizarre that it just kinda worked, and it was called the Ford Ranchero. It was a mixture of a car and a truck and tried to combine the best of both worlds, but Chevy knew they could do better. So in 1959 they released the first generation of the El Camino to the world, and it did pretty damn well. At first, because the first year it sold 22,000 models, which was 8,000 more than the Ranchero, but sadly in the following year of 1960 sales plummeted hard and Ford regained their crown. But it happens, and luckily Chevy didn't get discouraged on the idea. They knew there was something worth building here. They just had to make the consumers happy. And what the consumers wanted was either more space in the cabin or more space in the bed, because sure, the car was a hot rod and it came with a massive 348 V8, which by the way translates to 5.7 liters. And that 5.7 liter monster managed to push out 315 horsepower to the rear wheels, something that cars today still struggle to do. But that power wasn't enough. Chevy marketed it as something that could make it life easier without having to worry about picking between a car and a truck, and to be honest, it kind of failed in both departments on that. So in 1960, just 1 year after the initial release, they discontinued it. They accepted defeat and started building the next El Camino, which would eventually launch in 1964, this time based on the Chevy Chevelle platform, which as we all know was a pretty gnarly car. But unfortunately, Chevy didn't think the pure gnarliness and surfer dude-esque of the Chevelle would sell this car well, so they decided not to release the El Camino as an SS model, meaning it was gonna be freaking boring again, man. Eventually, however, in 1966, they did offer it with a pretty damn good 396 or 6.5 liter big block V8 that managed to push out an insane 350 horsepower. What? I know, man, this car was freaking nuts at the time, but people still were not classifying it as a muscle car yet. What else do they have to do, people? It's a freaking car with a big block V8 making 350 horsepower that you can carry all your freshly caught game in the back of. But even though this car wasn't at its peak yet, it was for sure climbing that peak. People were starting to talk about the El Camino more than the Ranchero now, and Chevy just had to bring it home. They had bases loaded, and the man was up to bat. And in 1968, he hit it out of the park for the launch of the third generation. They sold the most El Camino models within the third generation, and I personally think that's because this one looked incredible. It was once again based on the Chevelle design, but this time it looked angry. It looked ready to race and ready to bully kids for their lunch money, and not just ready to haul hay around all day. And the engine backed up its looks too. You know how people say it's not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog? Well, the third generation El Camino was huge in both departments. At the launch in 1968, it carried over the same 396, but this time it pumped out 375 horsepower. And then in 1969, they released to the world the first El Camino SS. This new El Camino was beautiful. It had blacked out grills and trim, tire letters to let you know that those puppies are going to grip. It had stripes, and it was given some disc brakes, but the engine remained the same, which if you ask me is completely fine because you still have 375 horsepower. That's pretty good. But what's that? Are you asking for more power? Well, hold on to your britches for just one more year, because in 1970 they would give the El Camino SS an absolutely way too large for your own good 454 or 7.4 liter big block V8 that managed to push out an absolutely ridiculous 450 horsepower. That's like really fast, guys. The new Nissan Z in 2022 doesn't even make that much. This car also had a bunch of different new things as well, like the transmission and some suspension pieces, but in the end, all you really need to know is Chevy had made a car with a truck bed on it that could run 13 seconds in a quarter mile stock. In 1971, however, it all went downhill. There was something peeking over the horizon called the gas crisis, and Chevy knew that it was the end of the run for their insanely bad gas mileage big block V8s. So, to try and save the cars and still be able to sell them, they detuned the big block V8s to push out less horsepower and in return give better gas mileage, which at first worked, but over the long run didn't. In 1971, the El Camino went from making 450 horsepower in its best model to only 365 horsepower with the same detuned engine in it. And then the following year in 1972, they detuned it even more, making it only around 270 horsepower, which is almost a 200 horsepower drop in just 2 short years. Even though the power levels were down, people had now heard of the El Camino though. They knew it was something worth buying, so the sales numbers were still doing fine. In fact, in 1972, they sold their most El Caminos yet at right around 57,000 miles. The following year in 1973, which was also the launch of the 4th generation, they sold the most models ever, selling right around 65,000 models, and that's because Chevy handled the situation pretty damn well. They knew people weren't going to be buying gas guzzling V8s anymore, but they also knew people liked these El Caminos. So they made them more luxurious and practical while still trying to be one of the fastest cars you can buy during a gas crisis. And it did well, obviously, but they sadly just couldn't keep the insane 454 alive. Year after year, they downgraded, the power until in 1975, it was only making 215 horsepower and they decided to pull the plug. Which, I mean, can you blame them? They are a business after all, and now it just makes the 70 and 71 model that came with the 450 horsepower one that much more special. It's almost like something that only the elites can own. But in 1978, Chevy revealed to the world the 5th and final generation of the Chevy El Camino, and this time it was based solely off the Malibu, but was actually built completely on its own chassis, which was cool for sure, but not cool enough. They were now in the aftermath of the gas crisis, and the damage had sadly already been done. Like I said before, Chevy had already taken away the 454 big block, and now the next best engine option would be the 350 big block, which managed to only make 170 horsepower, which for a heavy car was not that great. However, for the first 2 years of the 5th generation, sales were still doing good, but Chevy once again just didn't do enough. In 1980, the car dropped the 350 cubic inch from its lineup and was now only offered with the 305 cubic inch or 5-liter small block V8 that only made 150 horsepower, which paired with the fact that the car wasn't getting better in any other way, meant the sales started to drop. Chevy saw this absolutely insane drop in sales and knew that its time was coming, so started to put their efforts towards cars like the Camaro and the Corvette more, meaning that for the last 7 years of the El Camino's lifespan, it got close to 0 changes. The fastest model was still only offered with 150 horsepower in a very heavy car, and the interior remained the same. During the 80s, everybody wanted new stuff, and they didn't give them that. So, in just 7 short years, that was a tongue twister, the car went from selling 60,000 models a year to only 20,000 models a year. And so, in 1987, Chevy finally pulled the plug on it, and we haven't seen the El Camino since. There has, however, been tons of concept cars, rumors, and GM product use since then, but none was ever labeled the El Camino, and the car has sadly never came back. Maybe at some point in the future it'll happen, but I personally highly doubt that. It was a car that absolutely dominated from 1969 to 1971, and it made its mark on automotive history as one of the most unique and sought-after cars of all time. And sometimes, even though it is sad, it's best to let the legends rest in peace. But, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be the end of today's video on what makes the Chevrolet El Camino so great. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. Let me know what other videos that you see in the comment section down below. Check the links in the description for any of my other social medias or any of that great mumbo jumbo. I will be leaving a comment down below with my new YouTube channel where I will be yapping. As you guys know, I like to yap sometimes. I get off topic. I can't stay on topic. So I made a whole new channel dedicated just specifically to that. It's going to have no theme, no upload schedule. Just going to be for fun. If you're interested in that, there will be a comment down below. Alright. But anyways, yeah, so as you guys can tell, again, this is another one of the re-uploads of my old What Makes It Greats. For those who don't know and didn't watch my Subaru 22B STI one, pretty much I'm re-uploading, I think it's around 15 or so of my very old What Makes It Greats. And the reason as to why I'm doing that is because I don't like them the way they were previously. There was things I wanted to change about them, and I don't. They're way outdated, and on top of that, I have this like little thing where it's like I want to start doing more what makes it greats frequently, like in doing them very, very often. And it drives me nuts if I'm like starting from scratch, but there's some that are like all the way back then. So I want to have like them all in one place, all in one playlist, all with the same name, all uploaded around the same time, so I can like track things easier and stuff like that. The re-uploads are going to come every other what makes it great. That way it's not just like a bunch of re-uploads, because I understand it's kind of scummy to like just re-upload YouTube videos as a YouTuber, because most people are probably going to look at it as some sort of cash grab attempt, and I get that. I honestly, man, I would probably do the same thing if I was in your shoes. And so we're going to filter in some re-uploads while doing the new what makes it greats as well, that way it's not just re-uploads. But there's only like I said, there's only like 15 of them. Again, I'm sorry that it even has to happen in the first place, but it just drives me nuts if I don't have them all like in one area at the same time and everything like that. So yeah, but anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. The next what makes it great is going to be on the BMW E90X chassis, the E92, E90, E91, E92, E93, that chassis. So I hope you guys are excited for that. I love those cars, and my friend Zach has one. It made me love it even more. So yeah, we're gonna do one on those. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. Das Vidania, and have a nice night.